Just read the notes.
Like, it's your notes. It's where is the witch? No light can penetrate behind the Fairchild Oak. Ruins, the loop. Pillars with writing in red. Brick fireplace on a wall. What's there? Eyes of the witch through the trees. Watching. Time seems to stop. Dead animals. Are they sacrifices? You wanted it to be a satanic ritual so bad.
I 100% did.
There's abandoned. A 2-story house still standing. Female screams. Lights go on and off. People inside looking at people talking in the house. A cat or cot. A cot. Orbs seen with eyes. Shack remains continued. Large curve. Set often. Witch's Road? The loop, shaped like a boot. Granada Bridge. Anderson Drive. Blah, blah, blah. Electronics fail. Activity continued. Scratches on cars. Are these in the same place? People freely associate them. Backstory. Mob formed after suspected of killing animals and kidnapping kids.
So do you realize if we had you just do the notes and just do my notes and read them in that voice, all our episodes would be 20 minutes. We could totally, like, get through things. But as it is, it takes me, like, 17 hours to, like, say everything that's going on.
Yes.
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 Because I'm Christopher Balzano.
And I'm Deanna Mulhern.
And you're listening to Tripping on Legends. I'm not sure.
Crossroad in the...
Oh, thank you. Oh, you remembered. Yes. Your campfire on the crossroads.
Thank you.
And we are not at... we're definitely not at Tripping on Legends South. And
South?
we're not at we're not Tripping on Legends North, right?
We're tripping
So
on
my
Legends.
house is Tripping on Legends North. We're south of South, and we're not in a house.
What's Tripping on Legends South?
That's the original location where we were recording. So back in the day, it was Tripping on Legends South.
Okay.
And then Tripping on Legends North, or Tripping on Legends Ocala was Nicole's house.
Okay.
We are in a random friggin'
You like
park.
these little satellite.
Well, because it sounds like a fish.
One time we were at Publix.
We are.
We're at Lee Plummet Park.
I think we're one step above Publix, the Publix parking lot.
Oh, this park is awesome.
We are
It's named after us.
We're in a random park on Marco Island because we're recording one of 2 episodes right now, but we're going to record a second one where the legend takes place on Marco Island. And I'm not sure which one was going to publish first. Maybe we'll publish this one first and build
which
up.
One?
This is which one? Exactly. Yes, which one? This one.
Which one is which?
Because we were able to actually go on a legend trip. And so this is our follow-up episode.
The witch.
Which one?
The witch one?
Yes. So we were actually able to go on a legend trip. So we actually have a feedback or and it's funny because traditionally we used to always record on the way back, but you were wiped out. I don't think that you said 5 words
After the witch one?
On the way home from when we finally were from Cocoa Beach to Naples. You were
I was awake the whole time.
You were awake, but
you didn't even ask to record.
You were not in a recording mindset. I didn't feel.
Oh, you assumed.
You were asleep. Well, because what happened was, the context for all this was I had done an event near Ormond Beach. So we had left really early so we could be at the library event. Mm-hmm. And then that ended at 3. So we're boom, let's hit these 2 legends, or 3 legends originally it was going to be. And so this is our follow-up on them. One of them is the Merritt Island haunting, the haunted party. Mm-hmm. And the other is one that we never did an origin episode on. So we're going to do that one second. And that's the case of the Ormond Beach. The Ormond Beach Witch. Or it's just called the Ormond Witch. It's not even called the Ormond Beach Witch. The Ormond Witch.
Yeah, they kept talking about Ormond Beach.
And introducing that one for the first time. If it seems really weird, we are literally outside. What time is it? 9 o'clock?
9:30.
It's 9:30, and we're in a random park. But
on Sunday night in Marco Island.
Memorial Day weekend. But we were driving looking for the second part of this legend, this other Marco Island legend. And as we're driving by the park, I saw a turtle, right? And there's a statue of a turtle. Where's my phone? There's a statue of a turtle, and I was like, it all fits in because the Marco Island legend that we were talking about has been having so many crossovers with a book that I'm rereading right now, which is Stephen King's It. And if you know the story, if you know the real story of it,
Yeah, this is so complicated to
yeah,
explain.
I know you're.
Turtle
There's
is
the
a god
turtle,
and
right? The turtle is like a main character. He's the main good guy of the story, and so
not in it.
So in it, it is. Do you trust me? Do you trust me? So if you know it's Mandarin, and it's see the turtle of enormous girth, on his shell he holds the earth. His thought is slow, but always kind. He holds us all within his mind. On his back all vows are made. He sees the truth, but may not said. He loves the land, he loves the sea, and he even loves a child like me. So there's a lot in the other episode that we're going to record tonight. There were some connections that were constantly being made as I was listening to it again.
So you're trying to connect this
and so it was
story
really
to
weird.
it?
It was really weird that we then drove by a park and there was a huge turtle, a turtle of enormous girth. So I'm like, we should go back there and record because there's no way we were going to go
It's beautiful.
all the way back to my house and then all the way back to your house.
No.
Wasn't going to happen. I have a feeling someone's going to complain about us talking out here because I feel
Oh, the
really
cops
loud.
are definitely going to come.
Okay, the cops are going to come.
When we were in public, didn't they come?
No, I don't think so. That was only in your mind, but that's a good thing. Tripping on cops. I mean, it doesn't say you can't be in this park after dark. And I don't think
No,
we're
it's
really
probably
loud.
just like a standard.
We're just in a really rich neighborhood on Marco Island with that statue of the woman with the blue dress staring at
Two
us.
people. Two women.
Where's the other woman?
Right, one's right there, and one's right there.
Oh, I can't see the other
To
woman.
the right of the mailbox. It's like, or
Oh,
is it over
okay.
there? I don't know.
Well, don't
There's two
flash a
women.
flashlight at the person's
Right in the
house.
they don't even live there. Look. It's
Yeah, the
dark.
light just went off. Was that a...
Didn't. It was me.
No, I think it might have been what do you call it?
Sensor.
Sensor light. So, what do you remember about the background of the Merritt Island?
Okay, Merritt Island was.
Yeah.
It's parallel to A1A.
Do you remember the name of the restaurant? Why am I'm
It was a bar.
It was a bar. I'm totally dropping on the name of the bar.
It's not in here either.
the
What
episode
kind of-
that we
this
did.
is not. Is the notes for that in here?
If you go back to the episode that was called Country
the
Roads
bar
Take Us
called?
Home, right? Haunted Roads Take Us Home. That's what it was.
Country Road.
Don't! You're gonna get us banned. We did an episode where we talked about different. Oh no, it was Don't Follow the Music.
Oh, okay.
It was there. We also talked about Merritt Island on the Country Road because there's a suicide road that we didn't get to.
Is that the one we did get banned?
Yeah, that's the one where they
Yeah.
like shut us off
Yeah.
because you were singing it so much, which you were just doing too. But if you go back to the episode, Don't Follow the Music. This one stretch of road on Merritt Island, there was a drawbridge or a swing bridge. A swing bridge.
Yeah.
And it was, I can't believe I can't remember the name of the bridge. It was Boulder Bridge, something like that. Oh, wow. My memories.
Yeah, and your notes suck.
My notes suck. And it was, the story went that the club was, the bar was closed down because they made too much noise, much like we're making too much noise in the park right
Right.
now.
It was kind of like a Marco Island type place.
It really was.
Like
Like,
a quiet,
very,
rich-
very much the same way.
Yeah.
And
Like if
they
we were at a
had-
bar, they would close us down.
and they closed it down. They destroyed the building.
I think it had something to do with like the echoes too. It must have been so loud.
Well, we'll
the
get.
strip
Trust
of
me, we'll get to that
islands.
part of it.
Yeah.
And on Saturday nights, at that location, people reported that the music was still going on.
Mhm.
That people would hear music playing,
Right, as if there was still a bar there.
laughter, like there was still a bar there.
Party.
It was like and all this stuff like that. And so, people had reported it from the bridge. They had reported it from the location itself, which is now an empty lot. And so we, on the way home, decided to stop there because it was like, oh, it's perfect time. It's Saturday night.
Yeah.
The sun was setting.
Yeah. And you sang a song. What song
And it
did you
was.
sing?
We'll get to that. So
Do you remember?
I'm sure it had something to do with shaking, didn't it?
No, it was the Frank
No,
Sinatra
I remember what
song.
it's. Yeah. So we decided to have some fun with it.
Swinging
What do you
on a
remember
star.
about that night? Because it's now like about a month ago. Because we haven't been able to see each other.
We went to Merritt Island. We went on the bridge. We talked to some fishermen.
Well, I'm not sure if we would call them fishermen. So we decided to.
They were.
Sure, they were like 12 years old.
No,
These
he was like
12-year-olds.
17. And why wouldn't you call
He
him?
said actually he said he was 22.
He lied.
And he totally lied. He was not 22.
All right, we met some
So-
fisher boys.
So we went to the. It's interesting. It's one of those things where you see the geography of a place and you understand where the legends come from. With both the episodes we're going to record tonight, one of the interesting things is we'll call it the folklore of fishermen in terms of
Oh, yeah, this is so similar.
yeah all these, which is weird that we're recording
Yeah.
both of these together, right? In that I have a strong feeling that these are stories passed by people who are just spending time fishing in the same area.
Well, just like today we were there,
they
and,
passed
there was
them.
just a group of
yeah,
fishermen.
it's just a group of fishermen, and you tell
Fisher-
stories.
Are you supposed to say fisher people?
No, I think they're fishermen.
What about the women?
Oh well,
Fisher people.
welcome to
Fishers.
welcome to
You just
the
say
equality
fishers.
of the sexes. Yeah, fish people.
Fishers.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily by need of being fish people. No, but that is simply.
Fishers.
I'm talking. I dropped into parts of the Caribbean there, at World's End.
No, you sounded like
so-
you from London.
If you remember the episode, one of the interesting ideas that was floated was there had something to do with like some witchcraft used by an artist, right?
At the Merritt Island?
At the Merritt Island, yeah. Get into the right headspace.
Yes,
we're on Merritt
yes,
Island.
we're
We're
on
at Cocoa
Merritt
Beach
Island.
right now. Okay.
Mhm.
And this artist had done a whole bunch of different artwork
Mm-hmm.
around Merritt Island, and then
Yeah, he was like a famous artist on the island.
yeah, and he
Well
had made
known.
these weird things, and then he'd also put writing in the bar and stuff like that. And he was obsessed with this bar, and they thought it had something to do with like because he was also openly into witchcraft,
Mhm.
that he had somehow cast some kind of spell that kept these people here,
Right.
which I thought was
It had
really
something to do with that lion, sphinx.
So here's the fun thing, right? Is that it's unlike the other legend we did that day. The Merritt Island one, I felt like we had these really strong signposts,
Mm-hmm.
and we kept hitting the signposts. And I almost
And
didn't
the
think
bridge,
we were.
the
I'm like, oh, it's a
statue.
friggin' bridge. It's an older story. And we're literally walking on the bridge. We're like, oh my God, it's a swing bridge. Like we actually were on the areas.
We started swing
that were
open.
swing while we were doing it, while we were actually doing the legend trip part of it.
Yeah.
It swung open,
Yeah.
which was kind of cool. And then we're like, okay, we're not going to find this like abandoned place because we had driven right by it and we didn't see
Mhm.
the empty lot.
Yeah, you have to walk on the bridge.
You have to walk on the bridge to see this empty lot where the bar used to be. And then we saw the headless
Oh.
sphinx.
Griff.
Sphinx.
Oh,
It's a sphinx.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sphinx.
So if you remember, the Sphinx, the guy was really obsessed with it. He made the Sphinx. The Sphinx was part of the bar, part of it. And then
Kind of like protecting it.
you're
or
literally on
holding
the
something
yeah,
there.
you're literally on the bridge, and there's the friggin' Sphinx.
Yeah.
And so we were able to like
A little
go
bit
down.
decrepit, but it was
Oh,
cool.
definitely. I thought it was really interesting because I couldn't tell whether it was covered with shells or
Mhm.
whether people had graffitied it with shells, like whether it was intentional. But it's there.
The fishers
right?
didn't even know it was there, though.
Well, you stop saying that. There were like these little kids on the bridge fishing.
That's the only people we had to talk to.
Really, there was not a lot of people on Merritt
No,
Island.
there wasn't.
But I found that it was. We are constantly talking about Central Florida.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And ghost towns
Mhm.
and being in friggin' swamps and shit like that.
Yeah.
This was a
In the
Florida
woods.
type legend. Yeah, this was
Yeah.
like there are literally people fishing
Yeah.
right
In the
above us,
water.
right? And it
Mhm.
reminded me of.
And it was
being-
so close to Miami, but so far.
Is that close to Miami?
A1A is not Miami.
No. Okay.
Fort Lauderdale.
Again,
It does go to Miami.
it goes to Miami, but so does like Tamiami Trail. Like that's like saying we're right near 95, so we're right near the
Boston.
Mass Pike. You know what I'm saying? Like just because it's the same road. Because you were getting all excited about A1A when we were in Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's the whole strip.
Yeah, it's like it runs the entire
Well,
length of
anyway,
the state.
that's
so,
like Florida though, to be on
but
that beach.
it felt right like the other like we don't do a lot of legends where it's
Well, because you're scared of the water,
I'm not scared of the water.
like boats and stuff.
I'm not scared of boats. I just think I died. I was a fisherman in a former life and I overdosed. But I'm not scared of them. They just don't draw me in. But that's like haunted boats, but not haunted shorelines.
Oh, okay.
I love me a good haunted shoreline.
Okay. There's no haunted
Um,
boats.
We were able to see the empty lot. We were able to go across the street, which might have been the empty lot. Before we saw the empty lot, like, and we were like, oh, this must be it. There was that other open space where all of the, and you should see the pictures. There's plenty of pictures that we put online of the other area that faces the water.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was kind of
Well,
cool.
those cool things. Except for there was a really creepy guy.
He wasn't that creepy.
He didn't move. He was like,
I know, he
standing
did stay there for like
completely still.
half hour.
You know, he reminded me of someone who had something really bad to do, and he couldn't do it till we left.
Like pee or poop?
Might have been a pee or poop kind of situation. Might have been sacrifice someone. Who knows? It's one of those legends that, being there, I felt. I would never use the word, what do they say in all the ghost shows? Debunk. We're not here to debunk legends. We're not
Never
here
watched
to.
those ghost shows.
Yeah, we're not here to like say things are not true.
Oh yeah, we never do that.
It made sense.
Someone believes it.
Yeah,
then it's true.
It made sense to me that this legend.
Why would there be a sphinx there if it wasn't? Like, who would put a sphinx underneath the bridge?
Well,
There's
it was
definitely some story.
no.
was
I think
there.
the bar was there because there's records of the bar. Like you
No,
can
but
even
just
go
the
on like
sphinx itself was like scary and haunted.
yeah, but it was also clear while we were there that you could hear the music that was going on in the houses all around you.
Yeah.
Like
well,
you were
again, we
talking-
hear the music,
You
but
were talking about the echo,
yeah,
right?
it was the water.
And we decided to have fun with it. And so what happened was, I don't know, it got stuck in my head. And I didn't even think of it that was connected at the time. And I wasn't even thinking swing bridge in my head.
What were you thinking then?
For some reason, I got the idea to sing
Swinging on a star.
Swinging on a Star. I didn't even remember that it was a swing bridge. Like, that was so not a part of what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it totally
But it's not
fit
like
in.
that bar would be playing Frank Sinatra.
But that's a popular karaoke song. So if it was a karaoke
Did they
bar,
have karaoke back then?
if I remember, it wasn't that long ago that the bar closed, though.
Right. When did
It
karaoke?
was the
come
70s.
out?
Yeah, so maybe they weren't doing karaoke.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't
But so I'm
We
there
had
and
some
I'm
karaoke
like,
tonight, though,
would
so
you
maybe.
like to swing on a star?
Yeah.
Carry moonbeams home in a jar. And I was like, oh shit, that fits in. And as we were doing it, the bridge actually swung over.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
it was like, now I've reviewed the tapes.
Mm-hmm.
You hear tons of echoes. You don't hear any specific party or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I get the impression that this legend is one of those legends that's just kind of spread amongst the fishermen.
Mm-hmm.
And people tell it and stuff like that. And maybe people are hearing parties that are going on
Right.
around the island. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. The Sphinx, though, I feel like something more with that.
Well, he made the Sphinx for the bar. You know what I'm saying? So you're still stuck on the fact that you think he did some kind of ritual to make the...
Yeah, something. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I just got more of like all these things seem to
I
fit.
feel like we
and
should
so
have
there was a
Can we
mystique.
reach the Sphinx? Can we touch it?
We
I feel like I
did.
should have touched it more.
What are you talking about? We literally were like on the
Yeah, I know, but-
platform, touching it, wondering where the head was. We put the tape recorders on the Sphinx.
Okay.
Do you not remember any of this?
I do, but I feel like I didn't tune into it.
You hugged. I have a pixture of you hugging the Sphinx.
No, you
literally-
don't.
Yes, I literally have a picture of you
See,
with your
maybe I
arms
was
around it.
Taken over by something.
I know you were outside of yourself, looking at this thing, going like, I wonder. Yet, in talking with those quote unquote fishermen, they all said that their parents talked about weird stories on the
Yeah.
island.
They did. They started
know?
to talk about aliens and stuff.
Yeah, they were talking about like alien reports on Merritt Island and weird
Mhm.
stuff. And then the one kid,
Paranormal stuff. Anyway.
the one kid had the line that blew my mind away.
Yeah.
What was, and it's one of those things where sometimes you're looking at something too hard and you leave like a big part of it out.
Yeah. He was just talking about the Bermuda Triangle.
The Bermuda Triangle, like
yeah.
the Bermuda Triangle starts essentially
it's one of the
Cocoa
points.
Beach. Yeah, it's like one of the points of the,
Apexes of the.
or the apexes of it. So it's like, well, you know, it covers like wherever the Florida apexes are.
Right.
It falls like in it. And it was just the idea that he just came out with that, like,
Right.
well, yeah, we're in the Bermuda Triangle.
Right.
And I was like,
See,
oh,
he knew
wow.
what he was
Like,
talking about.
yeah, he was the smartest 22-year-old
17.
who clearly was not 22. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of,
He
like...
brought up he had important information, though. We weren't even thinking about the Bermuda Triangle. So thank you.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's why we go out.
Fisherman.
And we try to talk to people because it's like, oh, they might bring up something we don't know or another case we might don't know. But in this case, it was the simple thing of like, yeah, there's a lot of weird things that happen on this island. And I think that that's a really closed off society. Bless you. I think of Amity from Jaws, where she asks, like, when am I going to be an islander? And she's like, you weren't born on the island, you'll never be an islander.
Right.
And I feel that there's
they have important information.
Yeah, I feel that there's a lot of like little legends that we're not getting because people don't talk about them outside of the actual like people. If you live there, you're inside and you know about it because these kids were rattling things off. Like, oh, the aliens, and my mom had this weird experience, and
yeah, can my mom call you?
Yeah, the funny thing is that because of that day and those kids, I created. I think I sent it to you. I created new kid-friendly business cards.
No, you didn't send it to me.
They say like I survived the spooky.
Oh yeah, because you gave so many.
Because I saved so many business cards to little kids that day, and so I'll be able to hand them out to like the smaller kids because I got a whole bunch of them. They were cheap, and they don't have like our Instagram on it and stuff like that. But they've got like little information.
Cute.
But it was I enjoyed just going there. I thought it was like a really cool
I enjoyed it too,
experience. Like, and even though like my sciatic was acting up,
yeah,
I could barely walk across the bridge. It was like that was the fakest laugh ever. You were like,
that's why you couldn't walk across the bridge.
So that was at least interesting geographically. But earlier in the day.
Oh, you're talking about the other Bermuda Triangle incident?
No, what was that? What are you talking
about?
The
hotel.
Oh shoot! I completely forgot to
That's because you were by the Bermuda Triangle.
Okay, so I know this seems like kind of scattered because we're remembering stuff that happened a month ago. Like I said, I was asked to go to this like local authors convention kind of thing at a library. And
that's why I was so tired because we didn't get there until 2 in the morning.
Right. So, and we didn't really sleep well because then we had to wake up at like 6 or 7 to like get to the event. So we went to my daughter's play. Yeah. She killed.
It was beautiful. She
killed.
She's so good.
She was Patrick and SpongeBob.
It was so funny.
And then we took off. So we didn't take off from here until
10 or something?
Yeah, 9, 10 o'clock. It was probably 10 o'clock before we really got on the road. We drove from Fort Myers to St. Augustine, which is crazy.
4 hours or
like sometimes people are like, oh no, it was like 6 hours almost, wasn't it? To St. Augustine?
I don't know.
5 hours, we'll say. Okay. We'll say 5 hours. Just hopped in the car, middle of the night, practically drove to St. Augustine. And I was so excited because it was like, oh, we're finally going to St. Augustine. And I thought the next day, leave things completely open. I got the room for 2 nights.
The hotel was all booked.
If we end up wanting to go to do St. Augustine stuff instead of these other legend trips, we're there. We'll be in the center of everything.
Put in the directions.
It tells us we get there.
We don't see it. So
there's no friggin' hotel.
Right. So we turn around the parking lot. We enter it in again into the GPS, and it says permanently closed. I entered it again, and it said permanently closed. I checked the address from the email. You looked at it. I looked at it. Permanently closed. There's nothing there.
And there was not even a building.
Lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't even like, this is a hotel and now it's closed. Like there was nothing there. I've checked the address. I checked the address we put in. Yeah. Since then, because it's been a thing.
Yeah.
Because we had to go get another hotel.
Right. We're like, the hotel's just gone.
It's just gone.
So we drove and stopped at 5 or 6 hotels trying to find another room at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning.
Right, because they wouldn't let us in past midnight, most of these places. It exists. Right?
2 days later, we checked on it.
I've been trying to get my money back from my credit card
that night.
For the points, right?
Because we booked at it.
It was not there. They will not honor it because they say it exists. We're literally talking to the manager. The manager's on the other line. If you go to right now to it on Google, it's still up the same way it was when I checked it in the first place. it was not only was it not physically there,
It said permanently
it said
closed.
permanently closed.
We should have took a picture of that. Forever now. We're taking
It does.
pictures
It's
of
in
stuff.
my phone. If you look at my phone, it
says
says
permanently
it's
closed?
marked and it says permanently closed in my phone.
Oh.
I'm telling you, it's crazy. So that started our trip of this like what the heck. The only thing I think time slip.
Bermuda Triangle
thing.
stuff.
Wow, that's a little far up for the Bermuda Triangle, though, isn't it?
Not really.
No. I was thinking more Ocala, right? Because it is technically we were in Volusia County. Were we in Volusia County? No, I guess we wouldn't be in
Weren't we
Volusia
in
County.
St. Augustine?
So we're more in St. Augustine type area,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it set a tone.
Yeah.
So a few months ago now, like probably like 2 months ago, someone sent me, I think, or something. They sent me a video on the Ormond Beach Witch or the Ormond Witch, and it just hit me the right way. Like if you could look through this folder, which you can't clearly because it's dark. I had been.
Since Ian. After Ian, I felt drawn there.
It literally says that in my notes.
Yeah.
That's sometimes when I'm saying things spontaneous, I actually write out this thing. And I go, ever since Ian, I've been. But for some reason, like when I went there with the kids and everything like that, I just really felt there was something that we hadn't covered, right?
Mm-hmm.
That there was more to it. And I started doing all this research, and all of a sudden, someone pops up with this Ormond Beach witch story. And I'm like, this has not come up in my research at all. Like
The
I
Ormond
never
Beach
heard,
Witch never did?
Never heard of anything
No,
about the
because when
Ormond
you
Beach.
mentioned it to me, I thought you were talking about the Witch's Wall. I was like, oh, we're going to the Witch's Wall
Oh, yeah,
again?
you came in like, dude, you realize we're like
No.
4
Yeah,
hours
I was
away
like,
from
oh.
that.
Because I never heard of it either then.
So this person, and the way that they said it, and the responses to it, were so passionate
Ooh.
to this YouTube video,
Oh, okay.
right? And I'll post the YouTube video. It's YouTube. We literally watched
Yeah, when
it
we
while
watched,
we were there. Yeah. I'll put a link in the show notes to it, to the
It was a
original
little
video.
Blair Witchy.
It was definitely like ghost hunter-y, like let's go and do a
Russell.
yeah, let's do a ghost box session at this
Yeah.
location kind of thing. But the fact that it was there,
Yeah.
and the fact that they were talking about it, and the fact that when I started researching it, there were plenty of people who were talking about it, right? Obviously, I had gone to. We were talking about Old Witches Road, right? Like, or we're talking about the Witches Wall we had done, which was a great legend.
Yeah.
And if
I
if
thought we
you
were
go
going back. I was excited.
If you go back and listen to that episode, Deanna freed the soul of a child. We think
Yes.
while we were there. It was a really good, really cool thing.
Yes.
And then of course we covered it in episode 35 and 36, pre Deanna, when we went to there on a Sunday, and we went to the Suicide Tree, and then we went to Tomoki, and obviously Tomoki's been a huge
Hot sauce.
influence since then, right? It was funny, yesterday I was at an event, and there were people from Ormond Beach, and they had never heard any of the Tomoki stories.
Really?
And I was like, wait, you don't know the story of Chief Tomoki?
I'm like,
And I had to like
22?
tell them that, and like they were 22, 17, pretending to be 22. No, they were like 62.
Wow.
And they said they lived there for like 20 years, and they'd never heard anything about it. So I was sharing all that stuff. As I started to do the research into the Ormond Beach Witch, I kept finding reference after reference to Witch's Road, to the road that we were being on.
Wait, Witch's Wall? When we're at Witch's Wall?
Right, so now I'm talking about the Ormond Beach Witch.
Okay.
So that road that leads there is referred to as Old Witch's Road or Witch's
Right,
Road.
yeah.
Remember, we kept looking
Yeah.
for
Uh-huh.
like some way
The
that it would
loop or
like
something.
yeah, right. So to get some kind of context, if you've listened to those episodes or you know that area at all, there is like a loop. It's called a loop, and people a lot of times bikers will take it, right? Because remember that obviously Daytona, it's right near Daytona, so
Right,
Daytona
it's not,
is
you
a
can
big
see the water. It's like beautiful
big biker's
trees
place and stuff
with
like that.
canopies.
Yes, we'll get to the canopies.
It would be a nice bike ride, shady.
Yeah, but it's a very popular motorcycle ride, right? And so they make this loop around.
Reminds me of the
and,
New Hampshire one.
and within that loop is the Fairchild Oak, and
Yeah.
a little bit from that is the is Tomoka State Park, and in
that's
between
plantations.
you have the original plantation owner.
Yeah.
You've got Ormond's grave that is there.
Oh, that rum place we
and
passed.
right. So there's all these places,
Yeah,
and
it's
then
unique. I like it.
it goes kind of off somewhere off of this loop, and that road is supposed to be called Witch's Road. And time after time, people were referring to it as Witch's Road.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh yeah, blah, 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 Witch's Road. No, Witch's Road. And so the story is that there was a witch that lived slightly off the road in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's why they call it Witch's
that's why
Road.
they call it Witch's Road. So supposedly, there was a witch there, and she would kidnap young kids. So kind of the same story, right? And,
As the
and
other
obviously,
one, yeah.
not only is it the same story as whatever, but it's also Hansel and Gretel and all of our great anti-witch stories, right? And that she kind of angered people. Like kids kept being missing and disappearing, and so the people in the town just naturally assumed it was her.
Mm-hmm.
They formed a mob, right? And then they dragged her out of her house and hung her.
Mm-hmm.
So the way the story sounds, it sounds like where her house was, they actually killed her, like right out front of it, right?
In one of those trees.
Right, and it's supposed to be in a woody, swampy area. Blah blah blah. They then went in and some stories say they burned her house to the ground, which doesn't make sense. Right? Others just say it was vandalized, and whatever it was, it made it seem as if maybe they burned her house to the ground, but one wall of the house was still standing.
Right, one brick wall.
Right, one brick wall was still standing. And this, because of the evil she used, because of the children sacrificed, the story is that for the next however long, people kept being drawn, like Satanists kept being drawn to that area. And they would go in there and they would sacrifice animals, and people would go. They would do to this wall. They would go to this wall and they would write their satanic prayers and stuff like that in red on the wall. And then, they would sacrifice the animals. So if you went back there to the witch's house, you would always find
Bodies.
graffiti, but you would always find dead animals.
Right.
So animal control was always having to go back there and stuff like that. One person said that they had camped right there, near there in the woods. Now, I don't know why you would camp in that. There's so many places. This is why this story to me doesn't make any sense. And then the witch had disturbed them all night and destroyed all their stuff. And the next day they couldn't find anything, and there were hoof prints, like the old tale from New England and other places about the devils torturing the house, and there's the prints in the snow leading away.
We did find a brick wall though.
Did we? Did we find a brick wall?
3 bricks makes a wall.
So the part of the story, and then there's another house, right? That's supposed to be nearby. That's said to be the witch's house. That had never burned down at all.
Right.
That it's just an abandoned house. I've asked around. The librarian, right, whose name is Gemma Rose. She said she knew where the house was, but then she didn't know where the house was.
Right.
I've been posting some of her videos and stuff like that. She's going to help us out with some stuff on that coast, because she seems to be a good source. And then she sent me a whole bunch of other information, which we'll get to in a different episode. We couldn't find that other house.
No.
There was no other abandoned house. No one else said anything.
We found a pump and a brick wall.
Yeah, I mean, and we were really trying to follow all of these random things.
Yeah.
There seem to be contradictory stories, right? Like Granada Bridge and Anderson Drive, and then so the big thing is that Deanna kept getting excited every time there was a canopy. As we were on.
I thought you were gonna say a brick.
No, we're not even there, right? And so every time there was a canopy, she was just, and I'm like, dude, the whole thing is like that. It really is beautiful.
It is.
And that one stretch of road.
It talked about a curve in the road a lot with the big canopy.
Right. Well,
So I kept thinking, this is it. This is it.
and then of course it's the big curve in the road on the place that's called the Loop. So like
Well,
obviously
where we live in
was
South
a
Florida, everything is like a grid. Everything's straight. There's no
Well, that's what I'm
loops,
saying, like-
and there's no beautiful big trees like that. We have all beautiful palm trees, but they're not.
what I thought was
Candies.
why there was why there was such a disparity and kind of maybe even why the legend itself can exist is because the whole thing was a series of loops.
Right.
So if you say the loop under the
Yeah.
canopy,
Right.
it could be anywhere. And so we spent a long time driving around
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out where exactly it could be. And I had marked off
Right.
on
We
a
went.
map.
We asked that park ranger.
Yeah, we went to, it was actually at
The tree.
Bouleau State Park,
Mm-hmm.
where Fairchild Oak is. We're like, oh, do you know where this could be? And he's like,
Anywhere.
no.
He's
you know,
like,
he,
that could be anywhere. Is what
and
he
then
was like, kind of
what
like.
the weird thing was from him was how off we were about the geography.
Mm-hmm.
Like it seemed to be a loop, and it seemed to be we knew where we were going. And he said, because we were like, oh, maybe
Oh, yeah,
it's
to
the
walk
maybe it's the
there.
entrance. Yeah, maybe it's
Right.
the entrance, the back entrance, because someone had said it's behind the Fairchild Oak.
It's behind the
behind Bouleau
entrance of the
Park.
park.
And so there was a second entrance, and he said, what? It was like,
Mile. He was
Yeah,
Like, it'd take you hours to walk
he
there.
was like,
So
it would
then-
take. He's like, yeah, you can walk in like 3 hours. What
What?
are you talking about? We were there like 2 seconds ago. It just had a weird.
Yeah.
That part of it had a weird vibe to it. The geography of it, like not being closer as far, because if we were driving in circles for 2
Loop to
hours,
loop.
but not necessarily like to some place we would say we had traveled
Right.
long enough that it would take us hours and hours
No,
to walk there,
definitely not.
right?
I felt like we stayed within like a mile.
I can't remember, how did we ever come upon that spot where we actually ended up finding it? Was it just
I think because there was like a little parking area.
there was the parking
Because
area?
it had talked about like pulling to the side, and we were like,
Yeah.
maybe they made like a parking area because.
Now, if you go back and you watch the video, you see them park exactly where we parked.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we didn't watch the video till we were in the woods going, what the hell's
Well,
going
you
on?
couldn't
Are we
pull
there?
over anywhere else,
You really couldn't. And so
we had to
we
pull over
stopped there with the hope that if we just got out, got into the woods,
Right, it was a curve. It was a
Something-
canopy. Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to be like the psychic world or the witch herself would lead us the way, but I thought maybe like a hashtag follow the signs, like
Yeah.
something would happen that would lead us there. We spent probably like an hour,
Mhm.
in the, which I
Stomping through spider webs.
I'll call it Spider Village,
Spider
Spiderweb
Village.
Village. Not realizing that we were at the witch's wall the entire time.
Well, because you thought it was so weak.
This
You're like, this is not a brick wall.
This was.
I'm like, are you sure? This
not-
looks like bricks to me. You were like, no.
This was.
Walk away. Walk
No.
away. And then we went
I'm just
right
gonna let her.
back.
I'm just gonna let her go off on her
You
little
did.
her
You
little
totally
thing.
were like, this is not a wall. Walk away. And then we ended up right back where I said where the wall was.
Because there was no wall, right? If you're following us on social media, you've probably seen the videos of Deanna yelling at me about this is the wall, right? Because I posted them because they're pretty funny because it is the most unimpressive
We do live.
witch's wall.
Hurricanes took the wall down.
Hey, you're going too fast. You gotta let things play out here. You gotta tell the story. You just go da-da-da-da-da.
Because it was a wall.
I know. Okay,
Could've
why
been.
don't you tell the story of us discovering one by one the things that led to the wall? What was there that drew us to that area? I'm gonna let you do it, seeing that this seems to be your passionate thing.
Well, did we see the pump first?
We did see we saw these.
We saw like a. We didn't know
like
what
a-
it was. Like
like
a
a water-
water pump or something.
Well, no, the first thing we saw were the water tanks.
Oh yeah, the water tanks.
So we're like, okay, so
Then there was
they
some
were-
sort of
the water
sprinkler
tanks were
pump
big.
or-
the water tanks were big enough that
Right.
it didn't seem like it was for a house.
Right.
Right? Like they were too big to be for a house, but they maybe would be for like a company that was back there. But
Right.
it was in the woods. Like, what kind of company is just in the woods?
Yeah. I didn't
And there
really-
wasn't necessarily like anything that looked like, even years ago, there had been a path here. Like, it would be a random place to have a business.
Yeah, it was random.
But there were these gigantic
tanks.
water tanks,
Yeah.
right?
And then to the side there was some sort of water pump, like an old fashioned like well or.
What Deanna thought was a bell.
I did think it was a bell.
And we posted it online, and people were like,
It's a pump.
It's a water pump. It's the top
Yeah.
of a water pump. You
Yeah.
put the thing in here
It's a
and you pump the
bell,
water
a
out.
dinner bell.
She kept ringing the bell, hoping that the witch would come.
Which,
Nothing happened. And
we saw like a cot, maybe.
there
Like a
was
frame
there
of
was
a bed.
there was a frame, like there's a metal frame
Metal
out there.
cot,
There were bricks.
and there were bricks.
The legend talks
Like a
about
pile of bricks.
a wall with graffiti on it. You know what I'm saying? And a place to meet.
Why do you think it
And I
couldn't have been a
didn't-
wall, though?
Hold on one second. Let me say my stuff, then you can retort. I didn't see the site as being particularly impressive in anything, like in terms of like to draw the mystique of something, right? Now, you can say your thing now.
It could have been a wall.
Then
It was
where
in the middle of the woods.
then
Of
where
course,
the rest
if
was
you
the
were
rest
like
of the
gonna
wall?
do satanic rituals, or you're gonna be a witch and hide, you would be in the woods. You want like a yellow brick road to get there?
Yes, I would want like some remnants of what had been there. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
but
saying? Like what
we
some
live
stuff
in
that had
Florida.
been-
Things get
I can
deteriorated. They
understand
fall
that.
apart.
And we were talking
have
about
storms.
we were talking about a story that had happened. They didn't specify when it was, right?
Mhm.
Although some people had been like, "Oh, we partied there in the '70s" or something like that.
Yeah, that was the last account
So-
we heard of.
Which is kind of weird because we were just talking about this in the car. That like we have to start remembering that when we're talking about the '70s, we're talking
a
about
long
half
time
a century
ago.
ago,
Yeah.
right? Like 50 years ago. We're still in the mindset of like the '70s, was
70s,
yesterday, but even if it had been destroyed or whatever, where was the rest of it? You know what I'm saying? Like, were people taking bricks out? Were people like? It didn't seem to be that it was part of something that had been so big that would have started this legend.
Well-
And to what you were just saying, if I was going to go into the woods and sacrifice little boys and stuff like that, I would be deeper in the woods. Like, we came across that path.
But
I
it's
would have.
kinda
I would
like-
have been 100 yards down that path, this random path we found in the woods.
Yeah, but it was kind of like you're hidden right in the open.
And I get that you were hidden just enough.
And now, when we got to the other place with the rum,
Well, we'll get to that.
it was
we'll get to
fenced
that.
off, so
We'll
it
get-
wouldn't
we'll
get
get-
ruined, though.
We'll get to that.
I'm just saying this place wasn't fenced off.
I get
So-
it, but like, then why are there no records of what it was, right? Like, if it wasn't like, why is there nothing there that's like, this was important, this was a much bigger structure. It literally had, so it fit into our Stairway to Heaven episode because there were stairs. There were cement stairs that led
Yeah, there
to
was.
this
I
place.
forgot about the stairs.
Right?
Yeah.
That was the big thing. Well, because that was your hiding. Like when Deanna couldn't convince me that this was the wall.
No.
She just kept yelling, "But the stairs are over there! But look at the stairs! Look at the stairs!"
Stairway
So
to
I mean,
Heaven.
it was one of
No.
those things where, again, just like the Merritt Island one, I felt, could it be possible that people are remembering it the wrong way, or
Isn't that what a legend is?
well, oftentimes that's why we're called tripping on legends, right? Because we're constantly falling over those legends. Or could it be that they were getting whatever this was? Because it could have been a smaller house, right? Had stairs, had
A bed.
had a water pump outside, and they're getting whatever was there drew people into the legends, and maybe people have been drinking out there. We did find beer bottles and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're getting it confused with what was going on at the nearby sugar mill, which we also posted pictures of, which we'll
Was it
post
sugar
pictures of
or
again.
rum? I thought it was rum.
Was it rum?
I thought
Okay.
It was a rum, though.
It was a rum mill that was huge.
Yeah.
It was fenced off.
It was fenced
right?
off.
Like you're not allowed to. We don't know how long it had been fenced off. But there was a little bit of graffiti on the walls. There was a little like it fit the I didn't think the witch's house would be
Because they didn't fence it
that
off.
big. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like I didn't think it would be like this majestic thing.
Right.
But I thought it would be more impressive. I wondered if people were getting the two spots located. Like half the story,
Confused, yeah.
right? Half the story took place at the mill. Half the story took place in the woods. They mixed the two of them, and over time, we don't know.
Yeah, because they
What's
weren't
the
that.
real
We
story?
we stumbled upon the mill.
But it was close.
Yeah,
it was
so
less
maybe
than a mile
that,
from
I guess that could have happened.
I mean, otherwise, we're left with like, why would this random spot have drawn the? And it's so well known. That's the thing, is that so many. I mean, to the point that it was called Witch's Road, you know, and yet dramatically unimpressive and not well traveled. Like in terms of people are still going there, people are still doing it, but enough that these paranormal investigators from the local area
Right, go
made
there.
this whole video of going in.
Did you contact them?
Yeah. I even contacted them afterwards and
Did
went
Did you talk to them?
not like talk, but we messaged back and forth.
They didn't have any good information for you?
All the information that I passed on to you that night was the information they
That was
had.
it.
So, and I followed up afterwards and showed them some pictures and thanked them again. And we'll put their video in with this so people can kind of watch their video
Yeah,
about
because
it.
they
but
were very impressed.
They were.
They
But
had
they
a
were
lot of
also.
passion in it.
They were also.
Were they from there?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why. Because we're the outsiders.
You think? Or
We
you
were just
think it was
talking about
just-
how like we're outsiders to some of these places.
Or to almost all the places.
Right,
Even
and
here
they
on Marco,
weren't.
we're outsiders.
Yeah.
They also, I think, were getting hyped up by the equipment they were using and stuff like that
Yeah,
because
ghost
they're out there,
hunters.
which, like,
Yeah.
and they're getting the stuff
Toys
there
and their
and stuff like
toys.
that. Right? Is that what it said?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's just what
you
it
mean
is.
their boys and their toys? I get what you're saying. So I don't know. I was unimpressed by it, but now that I'm thinking more of it, I'm kind of like, all right, I can see how this might have once been an impressive spot that would inspire
Yeah,
people.
well, because the mill was impressive. Well, like you said, maybe they got confused.
Yeah, maybe they, two different settings for the same thing, for the same story, back and forth using them.
That makes a better story.
But the other thing is there was no legend trip to do. Right? Like,
Yeah.
there was nothing, there was no trigger that we could have used.
Yeah. It
We
was
weren't
like,
really an investigative
No.
or legend tripping mindset.
we didn't bring like a
with it.
witch's broom or we didn't have a spell ready.
So, have you watched the video of you doing it? Do you even remember what you did, or did you watch the
The
video when I
bell?
posted
With the
it?
bell?
No, when I posted the thing of
No,
you
I
going
don't think
like,
I remember.
so what are we supposed to do? You're like, witch, where are you, witch, or something like that. Like, you try to do, and that's kind of like the two issues are: one, some of these legends that we're finding don't have a good trigger.
Mhm.
They're just kind of like we need to go there and sense it.
Yeah.
But then,
Well, we're trying to figure out if it's even the spot.
or if even the spot, and then
Right.
the other side of that is that like we've gone a little bit of time without having something happen at these places, which is not the point of it.
Mhm.
We're experiencing the location. We're
Right.
like living the
Fine.
legend kind of thing.
Right. Finding out about the story
like-
and the people.
Yeah, but
It's not like people are hanging around there, though.
in the meantime, you're kind of like, well, you're not scaring the crap out of me. Like you want that moment, like you haven't really had that moment yet.
No.
Here, excuse me, where like something happens, like you feel it, whether it's scary or whether it's profound or something, which is not always the point of what we're doing, but it's good when it happens.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, like how would you rate this as both of these as like legend trips, like the actual experience of it? Like, what's your feedback on the experience of having done these two?
I don't know. Maybe you're just running out of things to trip.
Yeah,
'Cause
but those
you've
were
been
good.
doing it.
Those were good stories, you know.
But you never even heard about the Ormond Witch until. So
Well, that's
was it a
kind of
good
that's
story?
what. Well, that's what I want. The ones that
Yeah.
the people are talking about that are not in the books yet. That are not in the.
Yeah, but
you know,
they're not in
haven't
the
been
books
covered.
because they're not good.
Or because they're local. They're really local and isolated. That's what I like to think. But in terms of either of those places that we went being haunted,
No. they
haunted
didn't-
legend
No,
aside,
they did not
being
feel
haunted,
at all.
neither of them felt
Not
at all.
No.
Now, granted, if you're going to the witch's wall, in the complete darkness,
Oh yeah.
maybe
Anything,
you
yeah.
get the feeling of, but again, I think that's more of like because you're in the woods,
Mhm.
you're in this swampy,
Yeah. Spiders
spider-covered,
everywhere.
right?
Yeah.
Spider covered thing. It was like I wouldn't even mind this. There were spiders. They weren't ticks, at least.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
the
mean,
mystique of that moment.
You want to know if I'm
makes it-
disappointed that you don't haunt
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Good, because I like to think that I'm scary just without the with the actual thing. So.
I know it will be worth it when we do find one. You
It
have
will,
to like
and-
not every single thing can scare you.
And I think remember these are haunted legends, not
Right, they're
necessarily
stories.
real hauntings that you can get a hold on, right? And but it's
No,
still
we
I
like the
think
history of it.
I think it still tells a lot about that area because Ormond Beach and that part and all those towns on the Halifax, they're the site of Timakuan deaths.
Yeah, the
They're the site of
plantations.
all those plantations, the murders and the suicides that happen there. there's a ton of history. There's definitely like a book there that hasn't been written yet of all those
Is
things.
this a preview for you?
I've got a few already kind of in the chute. Once again, that's even further away. I hate doing these books about and researching these places that are, I mean, that's the distance.
The drive. Because the drive takes a while.
That's a further distance in Boston to New York. You know what I'm saying?
Good thing you like to drive.
Thank heavens I like to drive. So I don't know, but if you want to see if I end up writing a book on that, what you need to do is make sure that you're following us on social media.
Yes.
Okay, that was.
Oh, now I'm supposed to tell you what it is. Tripping on Legends.
Yes, you can go to trippingonlegends.com. You can go to Facebook /trippingonlegends. We have our Instagram, which is @spookytripping. Twitter's pretty much dead, right? Like people aren't even
TikTok though.
Yeah, TikTok is Tripping on Legends. But the biggest thing is, if you want to listen to some of these episodes, you have to go to the archives.
You have a whole library,
right? I mean, there are tons of these episodes. Even though this is episode 120 something other, depending on where we put it, it's either 127 or 128, or 128, 129. There's like over 200 episodes that are up there of one way, shape, or form for you to look at. So we are on everything now. We have a new platform. That's why I'm encouraging people to go on and subscribe. If you subscribed before, that feed's now dead, which is why you haven't heard Tripping on Legends lately. So you should go to wherever you get your podcasts and re-get it because the feed is new.
They make perfect bedtime stories.
Do they really? Yeah. Yes. Do you listen to old episodes of Tripping on Legends?
Right before I go to bed.
Yeah, she's on episode like 5 right now, which is actually a really good episode. So make sure that you're following. Make sure that you are listening. Make sure that you are subscribing. I'm Christopher Balzano.
I'm Deanna Mulhern.
And here's hoping that all of your trips
are legendary.
and cut.